Good morning. This is the October meeting of the Municipal and Environmental Sustainability Committee. I'm going to do the call of order. It'll be short. Vice Chair Jim Posh is out of town. Member and Vice President Russell.
Here.
And Chair is Gail Larson, which is me. I'd also like to recognize others in the room. Joe DeWitt Foy from the Heights Bike Coalition, Adam Fleischer, the owner of the Wine Spot, and Betsy Ferguson is here as an interested citizen. So, the first topic we're gonna do is talk about Joe's topic, or his passion. And he's here to update us on the, I get these in acronyms wrong.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read them, so don't make a mistake. Comprehensive and Equitable Safety Action Plan, which is, do you pronounce it CSAP or?
CSAP, yeah.
And then the Active Transportation Plan, so ATP.
Okay.
You can update us on those alternatives and funding requests,
Sure.
ideas. Go
Okay.
ahead, Joe.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. Good to see you again. Sorry, it's just me today.
All right,
It's getting busy late in the year, so
Yeah.
people were busy and unable to come, but we're always happy to be here and thankful. So wanted to give a brief update, and Gail, about how much time?
20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay. So want to give a brief update on those two plans, the Active Transportation Plan, ATP, and then the CSAP. So both of them are wrapping up. I believe the Active Transportation Plan will be finalized this month. The CSAP will be either this month or into November. From there, the consultants will hand over the plan to the administration, and I haven't heard a timeline on when that will be shared with council. I assume at an upcoming meeting, we'll be able to go through that, get public comment, et cetera.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Both of these plans have had a very extensive, broad engagement, months in the making. And Heights Bicycle Coalition and myself as a representative have been a part of both of them. And I'm really excited about both of the plans. So the Active Transportation Plan is a partnership between Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and South Euclid. So really looking at building a network of connected, slow, safe streets to build out this neighborhood greenway network. So instead of taking Cedar and Warrensville, we bumped the network over to, say, East Derbyshire or Silsbee, and a parallel route on along the other arterials. So it's building out a network of neighborhood streets that can still get people where they need to go, whether it's school to home to business districts to churches and religious institutions to parks and other amenities, but avoiding, the higher stress, higher danger arterial streets. So the first step will be creating this network and then building out with signage and wayfinding, at junction points, like continue on to Cedarly Business District, 2 minutes here, or turn right to, get to these destinations. So there should be some signage on the ground in terms of sharrows and identification that this is a slow road designated for prioritizing people walking and biking, et cetera. So that'll be the first step. From there, in future years, we can build on that and really ensure that those are slow and safe routes, because just because we put up a sign and say this is a neighborhood greenway, expect bicyclists and people walking, doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to do that. So then prioritizing those routes for traffic calming, mini traffic circles similar to the Compton Road Greenway plan that should be going in shortly, with traffic calming and mini roundabouts and other means of just slowing and calming traffic will ensure that they are actually safe neighborhood greenways.
Before you go on, has it been determined that the route primarily going to stay in the southern half of Cleveland Heights, that there won't be going anything north?
Oh, it definitely will. Yeah, no, these are comprehensive across the 3 cities.
Okay.
So it's a whole network. So I just called out a couple
just so you
routes
have,
that
people have options they can take.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So it should connect all areas of the 3 cities
Okay,
mentioned. Now, that being said, what we have now is a plan and a map of the network, and we need to actually build that. So,
I just have a question.
yes, so we need to make sure that that plan actually gets implemented and put on the ground, on signs, that there's, education component of it so people know this. So that will be part of the, funding requests as well as ongoing work to actually build out the entire network. The 3 cities do have a grant from NOACA that they received a few years ago that is dedicated for this. So I believe they received it in 21 or 22. They started the plan, but then realized that we didn't have a comprehensive map of where this, the active transportation and the neighborhood greenways should be built on a comprehensive scale. So we went back to the drawing board, got a grant from ODOT to plan this out. So the result now is a comprehensive plan for where this neighborhood greenway network should be. And we still have the money from the original implementation grant that hasn't been spent yet.
I'm gonna recognize Vice
Yes.
President Russell, but do you know how much that money is?
It was 281,000 at the time.
Okay.
My
Interest.
assumption is that it's been gathering interest for a couple years, so probably a little bit more than that.
Thank you, Chair Larson. Just a question. I really love the idea of removing bicyclists from main thoroughfare roads. But when you are on the highways or streets now, you see a lane says bicycle, or just have a bicycle and everything. Is there any desire or interest of maybe making those lanes a different color, or something where it stands out where people identify that as this is a bicycle lane?
Sure. So a couple things I want to clarify. We're not actually talking about excluding bicyclists from using arterial routes. Sometimes you have to go on
Yes.
Cedar. Sometimes you have to be on Warrensville on a bike, and so that's outside of the active transportation plan. We're trying to, with the neighborhood greenways, providing an
Alternative,
route,
yes.
alternative option. We talk about all ages and abilities. So some people are comfortable riding on Cedar, a lot of other people aren't. So they're going to want to, look for another option. But you're referring to what are called sharrows. They're, in all honesty, they're an outdated approach to bicycle infrastructure. They're cheap and easy. They don't actually provide any safety. Bikes are allowed on any street other than highways and other, limited access roads. But nothing in Cleveland Heights would meet that category. I am not a big fan of sharrows. I think Bike Cleveland and Heights Bicycle Coalition, share that.
Okay.
They don't provide a safety benefit.
And that's why I said, because I didn't know, but that's why I said maybe making it a different.
I think so. I think what we would want to see on
If they're gonna.
streets, on busier arterial streets such as Lee Road, or Warrensville, if the design was changed such that you would have narrower roads, because right now some of those lanes are 14 feet wide. You can narrow those lanes and have room left over for a dedicated bike lane. You can highlight that with the bright green color that people know that this is designated. Actually, South Euclid has done a lot of work on Green Road, and they have dedicated striped green bike lanes. So those are the sort of the, I won't even say gold standard now, but those are the standard for bicycle infrastructure on busier streets now, to have them striped and painted. Protected bike lanes on those busier roads are even better and safer.
Okay.
Where you have a little curb, or you have, vertical bollards or something like that.
You know, I drive a school bus, right?
I know, yeah.
So I see those lanes and
Mhm.
all of that, and you're right, they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That's why the green just
Stands out more.
stands out to
Absolutely.
make people know that they're there. But
Yeah.
no, I like the plan. Now, in is it Columbus or somewhere, they have the bike lanes in the middle of the road?
I don't know in
A lot of
Columbus.
cities have done.
Cleveland is looking at building a network repurposing some of the center median
Oh, okay.
as like a two-way bicycle track. So I've seen those. I think there's pros and cons of different.
That's what you thought, but
Yeah, there's
I
pros and
wanna
cons of
take that
different.
meeting, so.
Yeah, I think it's very context specific. So there's not like a broad brush answer. It's like, is that the best? I think it can work in certain situations, and in others, it's not the best option.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Why don't you go ahead and finish what you want to say, and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, so that is broadly the active transportation plan. There are a number of safety recommendations that will be included in that plan as well. So that'll be a list of, short, medium, and long-term improvements that can be taken, such as crossings, intersections, lane narrowings, maybe working to build a dedicated multi-use trail or off-road connection somewhere. So there will be a number of those, but today I wanted to highlight the neighborhood greenway map. We will have the map. It's a good network. It's really the network that, like, if you've been riding for years, you start to learn. You talk to people of which roads you should avoid and which roads you should take. So again, a lot of community engagement, a lot of feedback, and it's a good solid plan. We just need to now work on ensuring that it gets funded and built. I'll come back to that. I'll switch to talking about the CSAT plan, which is more of a targeted focus on specific safety improvements. Whereas the active transportation plan is looking at how do we encourage more people to engage in active transportation, walking, biking, scooters, et cetera, and as well as using public transportation. The Comprehensive and Equitable Safety Action Plan is really about how do we move towards ensuring the goal that Cleveland Heights has adopted of Vision Zero traffic deaths and serious injuries. How do we actually get there? So the CSAP is really looking at what are the structure, programs, policies that we need to ensure that we reach these goals. A main deliverable of the CSAP plan will be an extensive list of short, medium, long-term pedestrian, bicycle, and for all road users, so including drivers, improvements to ensure safety and minimize and eliminate deaths and serious injuries. I've seen a draft of this list, and off the top of my head, I want to say there's over 100 improvements identified, so specific intersections, specific locations, where they looked across. This is specific to Cleveland Heights. So it's a very extensive, comprehensive look at areas that we need to focus on and start chipping away at to improve the safety of the city. So that's the other. I see them as supplementing each other, whereas the active transportation plan has some safety, but it's really about encouraging the use of active transportation. Of course, a big component of that, a big hindrance of people engaging in walking or biking is that they don't feel safe. So the safety component comes in there. But the two of those together, I think, have the chance of really making Cleveland Heights a great place to walk and bike. I wanted to call out a couple things. So Cleveland Heights in 2021, I believe, passed an ordinance establishing Vision Zero as the goal.
Yes.
the administration has taken some steps. I know council has allocated funding towards traffic calming. I think one thing that we're missing, and we're having these conversations on the CSAP steering committee, is how do we make that actionable and institutionalize that and ensure that the everyday steps are being taken to achieve Vision Zero. So I think looping back to that ordinance, the CSAP to me is really that roadmap, that plan of how we ensure that we get to, that we achieve our goal of Vision Zero. In preparation for this, Heights Bicycle Coalition did a review of cities that have adopted Vision Zero and have been making solid progress on that, and we tried to take some learnings from that. So I'll pass out it's an annual report from the city of Alexandria, Virginia. I'll highlight why I call that. You can take one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before you go on, did you look at our Vision Zero legislation as you were going through this analysis?
Yes.
So you know what's in there and what's
Yep.
not?
We do. And just since you raised it, the two things that I've taken from our vision, it's an aspirational
Yes.
ordinance.
Agreed.
It says we agree with this goal, we want to work towards it. It's not very specific. So the two main things that I would see is lacking in that legislation is SMART goals. They should have a timeline. And ours doesn't have that. It just says we want to achieve Vision Zero, whereas a lot of the other cities that have adopted and have been making progress on Vision Zero, it's like by this date, I think Alexandria is by 2028, we want to establish that we will eliminate traffic deaths moving forward. Hoboken, New Jersey is sort of the all-star in the Vision Zero cities. They have established by 2030, we want to achieve this goal. So that's one thing that's missing in our legislation. And the other thing is, I would say, these other cities establish a task force of specific department heads and other key stakeholders that's meeting on a regular basis in order to progress on those goals. I believe our legislation directs at the time city manager to convene and ensure that appropriate department heads are working towards these goals, but it's definitely less specific in terms of who is working on these at what intervals, et cetera. So we chose Alexandria to call out specifically. There's a number of cities that have made good progress on Vision Zero. Alexandria, Virginia, we called out because in a lot of ways there are similarities to Cleveland Heights, and that it's an older inner ring suburb of a larger metro area that is making significant progress on Vision Zero. So they were called out last year in 2023 for actually achieving zero traffic deaths for the year.
It's amazing.
They're 3 times the population of Cleveland Heights, spread out over about twice the size. So they are a little bit denser of a city, but still, pretty high modal share of car use. They have public transportation and biking and walking facilities, but it's not like a New York City that is just a very different context. And they were able to, over time, make progress and actually eliminate traffic deaths last year. One way that they are doing this is by year after year making consistent investments in these safety improvements. I'd say historically, Cleveland Heights, when they have had a plan related to an individual corridor or a safety improvement, we have a plan. We'll go after funding to try to secure money to implement that plan. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes that plan continues to sit on the shelves. Cities that are making progress on Vision Zero are going after grants, but they're also year after year allocating appropriate resources to chip away at those those list of safety issues. Alexandria, the dollar figures are listed in here specific to the Vision Zero program, which does not include other things of safe routes to school and their Complete and Green Streets programs, but they're allocating about, over the next 5 years, about $1 million a year specific to the Vision Zero program. So we took those per capita spending and applied that to Cleveland Heights population. We came up with a number around $300,000, which is the recommendation that Cleveland Heights start with for next year to either establish and start working on a Vision Zero task force or to start chipping away at those safety issues specifically highlighted in the Comprehensive and Equitable Safety Action Plan. I know council allocated $200,000 last year.
It would be 400, but because we added
Wonderful.
another 200 after
Okay,
the request from your committee.
from TAC, yeah, that's great.
And they spent most of it, but
I think ensuring that a program has funding year after year and that we're going to prioritize this as a need, as an important aspect of what the city is doing, and ensuring that the program and those actions have sufficient funding on a consistent basis is what it's going to take to make progress on towards our Vision Zero goals.
I noted that the Alexandria Vision Zero plan calls for an annual report, and I think that
Yes.
has to be in what we do because of the accountability. It's like, yeah, I've asked about the 400,000, but I think from the administration, it'd be nice to have the detail of how that money gets spent as we go through budget. And also, I've also asked for 500,000 this year, Joe.
Wonderful. 300,000 was a starting
I
point.
know.
So
I-
we're more than happy to go above
I've
that.
asked them to consider that
Mhm.
because we're starting with so many projects
Mhm.
that need to be done.
Mhm.
And so maybe more money now at the beginning of trying to get more neighborhoods safer,
Mhm.
the better. So I've asked them to consider it. I don't know if I'll get that or not, but I do think one thing you might want to keep in mind is transportation mobility. The committee, sort of what you were on before we split them off.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask them to look at the legislation from Vision Zero
Mhm.
and Complete and Green Streets, to see if there's anything in those legislation pieces that need to be strengthened.
Mhm.
And so the information that you have might be beneficial, so I'd encourage you to reach out to
Yeah,
Aaron.
absolutely.
Yeah, do you know who Aaron Hughes Ware is? Have you met him yet?
I'm not sure.
He's the chair of the
Okay.
committee, or Gail Lewin.
Okay.
To let them know that you've got this information,
Okay.
because that can also be incorporated into the discussion.
Great.
They meet once a month,
Okay.
and
Yeah, wonderful.
I would
I'll certainly
hope that
reach
you would
out.
do that. I would, as we add these layers, how does the Safe Streets for Cleveland Heights fit in?
So we're having that conversation with the task force for Safe Streets for Cleveland Heights, which is that was the grant program that funded the CSAP plan. My recommendation would be that group of people evolves into a Vision Zero task force. And that we meet regularly, whether it's monthly or quarterly, to review city plans and work that's being done, continue to make recommendations, continue to highlight safety gaps and issues. And then potentially it's that group chaired by someone from the city. Potentially even some of this funding could go towards I'm not sure if it would be an FTE or a partial FTE in terms of a Vision Zero coordinator. That's another thing. It's not in any of the legislation that I've seen, but cities that are doing this well and making progress have a staff member or more dedicated to implementing these programs. So whether that's a partial FTE or more. So maybe a Vision Zero task force chaired by a Vision Zero coordinator under the city convening, a group of city and stakeholders to continue to make progress on those towards Vision Zero.
And that's part of the accountability as well.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you've got somebody that has the information, and that's what they focus on.
Yep. I think what you're referring to is something like this in terms of getting feedback from the city of what is
Data.
happening. And you can go back and look through previous Vision Zero annual reports from Alexandria. And every year they include this of, what progress is being done in terms of curb bump outs, upgraded crossings, policies adopted, et cetera. So
What page is that on?
that would, I believe it's 5. The fiscal year 2024 accomplishments at a glance. So that's a helpful summary of all of the work that's being done. And those are, a lot of those things are not high dollar fixes. Those are things that can be done with paint and plastic, and actually policy changes and updates to, the crossing times at intersections. Something as simple as leading pedestrian intervals where the walk signal starts a second or two before the red light turns to a green light, allows the pedestrian to start walking while everything is red, can avoid those quick turns where the pedestrian is stepping out at the same time the car is turning.
If people are paying attention
Yeah, but
to that.
leading pedestrian intervals are essentially a no cost, or really a staff time only. We need to update the timing of those things. So that's really what's called out, a lot of those things in these reports. And I think that's where the city can make a lot of progress with relatively small dollar investments while we continue to go after state and federal grant funding to make those larger, more extensive investments.
Is there a lot of money sitting out there that we could go after?
So the other great thing about the CSAP plan is that opens us up for implementation funding through the same program. And this is all funding, I believe, through the federal infrastructure plan that passed a few years ago. And now that we have completed our plan, or will be completed in the next month or so, the next cycle for implementation, we'll be able to go after those dollars as well. And those are large pots of money to go after for implementation. So while we should absolutely go after those resources to make those large, comprehensive, those are roadway redesigns, road diets, et cetera, where we're talking millions or tens of millions of dollars. We can continue to year after year allocate funding to make progress on the list of safety issues identified in the CSAP.
There still has to be a local buy-in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what Cleveland Heights has done in the past.
Yeah.
Is we've funded the local match. We've come up with the local match when we receive a grant, and we want to continue to do that, but also prioritize. We're going to put money forward on an annual basis in our budget from the city to prioritize and ensure that this gets implemented.
So will you reach out to Gail Lewin or Sam
Yes.
Bell or whoever you know on that committee?
Yeah, I'll look through the list. I know
Thank you,
that's
and
there.
I think that this document,
Okay.
both this letter as well as the document you printed out of the city that's doing this already would be very helpful to guide us or to guide the committee.
Yep.
Because they're on the same page and we're all anxiously waiting for the production of the results of the CSAP and the
Mhm.
ATE.
I was hoping they were going to be completed and we'd have something to discuss
Well,
in paper, but it should be
they're close,
weeks
right?
or
They're
yeah,
close.
weeks to month. Sure.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming
Thank you.
today.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Adam,
Morning.
good morning.
Morning.
Just to introduce our discussion point, Adam we've talked a couple times about the recycling program for businesses. That started out, they were, would you say pre-COVID or would you say was that about when it stopped?
Yeah, I think it was right before COVID.
Yeah, they were getting
Mhm.
business recycling and they weren't being charged for it, for cardboard and paper.
And glass and probably
Oh, they
plastic,
did glass
yeah,
as well?
Yeah,
Okay, and then it stopped,
abruptly.
so, and I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Okay,
You want me to ask my question to guide you as we talked about?
well, first of all, good morning and thank you for having, and thanks for the opportunity to discuss the topic. Sure, if you'd like to.
So we just talked about what you recycled when the city was providing the service.
Yes,
Cardboard and glass and paper and plastic.
yes.
Where did you store those bins, each business that was doing that?
Well, to go back a little bit, before, we opened our shop up in December of 2011. And we always had a recycling program that was supported by the city up until just before COVID when it was abruptly stopped. And there was a rather large bin in the parking lot behind the wine spot.
Okay,
So Cedar Lee area had a bin, and we also had canisters like the ones we have today at our homes that we could have inside the business, and we would put like plastic containers and glass bottles for us in those, and then they would get picked up.
Okay,
And I did, I want to make sure I remember things accurately, so I did reach out to a number of businesses that had been around for a while, and everybody, kind of verified that. So that was all there in place. There were some issues with that we can talk about at some point up until it was stopped.
okay. And they were not charged, this was part of the services, them being taxpayers and included in the city's recycling programs that
Yes,
they exist at the time.
right.
Did you get an estimate for me by any chance of like how much cardboard and glass you recycle now currently?
Easily for us, and we're not a restaurant.
Right.
We're pretty focused. We don't really have a food program. So even just for our business, I would estimate between 120 and 150 like glass bottles a week. So you can calculate that out monthly and annually. And then we found a company that at least does cardboard recycling at no charge. So the bins you see today, there's 3 bins in the back of our store today, and I think 3 or 4 bins that were placed by the old fire department in that parking lot. Were put there at no cost. Those are pretty large bins, and we fill those up, just the 3 behind us, every week. And I estimate our shop is probably half of those,
Yeah,
half of one bin,
okay.
alone every week. So pretty substantial.
When he says no cost, they are using another service.
We found
Another
a company that would recycle at least cardboard and paper
Oh,
and pick
okay.
up at no cost. So that was nice to get that.
And how often when you pre-COVID, how often did they pick up the bins? How often did the city pick up the bins?
My recollection is every week.
Once a week.
Yeah, it could have been more often. I just didn't know.
'Cause
But I
that's
know
gonna
the
be-
canisters in our shop, they did once a week.
Okay.
The bin, I don't recall.
So did they actually stop at your store, at the wine spot and somebody got out of the truck and came and
We would
grabbed the
take them
bins?
outside, yeah.
Okay.
We would take them out.
Okay. And, okay, I've answered that question, I answered that question. You had mentioned that there are problems with others using your bins. Are you seeing any garbage collection around the bins or anything like that?
Well, I mean, they don't hold a lot, so we've always had issues in the city with people that live in the city wanting to, get rid of refuse. So we do have some issues, and we always have, even with the recycling bins, with dumping of things in there. So we try to control that, but we're certainly open to any business using those recycling bins.
Well, and if you had an area that was designated for the bins and it was surrounded by fencing
Yeah,
with a lock on it,
yeah.
that would Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For stopping. Are you leaving too?
I have an interest in this, so I'll
Yeah, it is
stick around for the
interesting.
conversation.
I'll see you next month, okay?
thank you.
Betsy.
Uh,
If you did that for enclosure,
yes. So one of the things that we dealt with the large recycling bins that the city had before the service was stopped was people dumping, and they were unlocked and they were open. So that prompted a conversation with the city, specifically with Brian, Economic Development, about having, for multiple reasons, some sort of gated secure area in the parking lots where not only recycling bins could go, but also trash bins. I understand they're theoretically, they should be locked and enclosed, but they're not. So you see garbage bins, and you see the recycling bins and donation bins just sort of strewn out
that's the way it is right now
the
today.
way it is right now. But we got to the point where we were talking with the city about having some sort of secure area to make it more sightly and to make it more secure so there wouldn't be the dumping. So imagine an area maybe in the middle of the parking lot that had a fence around it with a gate that was locked that the merchants could then use. But those conversations stopped probably when we really started to focus on the development, and a lot of city's efforts were focused on the development on Cedar Meadowbrook. But it all seems to be coming together now.
So that would be a good place to locate something like just the general garbage and recycling in the middle of that parking lot?
Yeah, or some area where it made most sense. We want to keep as many of the parking spaces we
Right.
possibly can.
Right.
May I-
And
Go ahead.
Does each business have their own containers?
today or before?
Today.
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I was curious before coming in here about what other businesses are doing. So I did sample a few businesses that we're close with, and most of the businesses that I spoke with throw all of the material that could be recycled away in dumpsters because of the added cost of having more bins. And so that is part of the concern is, one is, as a merchant, our tax burden has gone up and our services appear to have gone down, and this is a major area. And two is, we're Cleveland Heights, we see ourselves as a green community, and it just is not logical for us to be throwing away or dumping all of this material. I mean, we're just one of hundreds of businesses in Cleveland Heights. There were a few that do pay for cardboard recycling. Most just throw everything else away. And a few of the ones I talked to just even cardboard. And these are businesses that do a lot of volume. So there's two issues there at least. One is we're throwing away things that could be recycled. And two is that is an added expense, an added burden on the businesses because every time they pick up our garbage, it costs us more. So, there's a lot of things that could be kind of addressed here.
How much is the cost for a bin?
Well, it depends on the
Like a
company, it depends on the company, but it could be $100, it could be $100 a month. But it does add up. And when you think about the number of businesses, the expenses do go up.
Adam and I were also talking about wondering if the old bins are someplace in the city that could be used to start up some of the, some pilots.
Yeah, right.
And I just don't know, so that's a question for our director, Clinkscale. And the current bins that you have, I know what size they are. Is that a good size, do you think? For each of the different materials?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It really depends on our ability to secure them. So
Yeah.
one dump can fill it all up.
Yeah.
So if they're secured and they're managed, it seems like they're the right size. And then we need to pick them up probably at least once a week.
Yeah.
A couple times would be better.
Yeah.
But because there are weeks where it's overflowing and it's unsightly and there's cardboard around it, but it's pretty manageable right now.
Is that happens once in a while, so perhaps if we did if we committed to once a week and then on a please get over here
Yeah,
basis or
Yeah,
or
that's a
just
good
drive
place to
by and
start.
see
Yeah,
if it needs to be dumped.
that'd be a great
Yeah.
place to start for sure.
Anything else? Councilwoman Russell, did you have any questions, Joe?
No, I just, this from my time on TESC or the precursor to TESC, we talked about the fact that a lot of businesses don't recycle for that reason, and
Yeah.
that it does stand in really stark contrast to, I think, the desires of most people here
Yeah.
and really the image of Cleveland Heights as being a sustainable forward city. Yeah, that's heartbreaking and astonishing that much, recyclable material is just going into the garbage.
And my intent today was, if Coordinator Boateng was able to attend, as they're working on the climate resilience plan,
Yeah.
that this would be incorporated in there. So I will write up my summary and send it to him right away
Thank you.
so that he can see that. And then, as he requested, bring it up at the next SESC meeting. I think it's important, Adam. I mean, you've been very patient. So we'll work on this together, and I did wanna ask you two questions as my committee member. If it's okay to go ahead with this request for the money that I've already asked for, but I wanted to have your support if it's possible for the traffic calming and moving towards safety improvements throughout the city for the bike safety, if that's okay.
So where is it coming from?
Well, it will be part of the budget, so
Oh, part of the budget.
Yeah. we don't know what the unencumbered balance is right now, but it's gotten up there again.
Okay.
So hopefully
That's
we can continue, we need to continue to do these initiatives anyway. And then if it's okay, that I do that summary and send it on to Coordinator Boateng. I may CC Director Klingscale as well and the mayor so that they can see where we're at on this. And then that was gut wrenching, like Joe said, to know that a lot of it's going in the trash.
A lot, yeah.
I'm just surprised it was not enough containers. I know I get some calls over there that the actual containers are not being dumped often enough because it leaves a lot of trash.
Well, those are the third-party cardboard containers that we have to, ask that company to come and clean those out.
Wow.
So, yeah. I don't think a lot of people know about what's happening. And when customers ask, we have to tell them. The look on their face is pretty crazy. But, we don't wanna, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So thanks so much for at least opening up the conversation, and anything I can do to help. I think it'd be great if the city could sample other merchants to hear from them, what's going on. Survey them, but I think there's an opportunity here to really make some good changes for Cleveland Heights. So, thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. I hope we can do something.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm here if you need anything.
Just one other related thought, and this came up as both part of the climate action planning, but also when I was a member of the Environmental Sustainability Committee about food waste composting. And it's one thing to have a composting program for every curbside for every home across the city, but potentially we could start with restaurants that are interested in doing that. So that's potentially diverting a lot of food waste from going to the landfill into more productive uses.
Yeah, I was talking to Adam about that, and he said he doesn't have, because of the way he's set up, he doesn't have a lot of food waste, but
Some of the other
some of
restaurants.
the rest, like Sophie's, are already doing that.
Mhm.
And it's definitely gonna be a discussion point.
Mhm.
Composting is on our agenda for the Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee right now.
Great.
To get started on it and moving towards, New York City has curbside composting. They've been able to,
When I was in San Francisco, it's the same. They had that.
same, so.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those are things we're working on, so. Anything other that you wanted to bring up today?
No, he just kind of blew me away there.
Important. All right, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting at 10:45. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.